Okay, we will reconvene out of our executive session. And Mr. Rickert, we've come to a consensus that we'd like staff to conduct an outreach to the Catlin Court folks.
All right.
That's all 52 residents, and they can fill you in on that. But it was a consensus that we'd like to do that.
All right.
Okay. All right. I think we also are obviously going to have to table item 2.2.
Correct.
For right now. Okay. Mr. Maida, anything else?
No, sir, that's fine. We got your direction.
In that situation, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn this workshop.
So moved. Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn the workshop. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, workshop is adjourned. And now we are running just a little bit late. We apologize for that. We can move right into our regular meeting. So welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of April 1st, 2021. My name is Vern Crow, and I am the chairperson of the commission. The Planning Commission is a citizen body appointed by the City Council. The commission is empowered to make final decisions on certain matters, with those being appealable to the City Council. On other matters, the commission acts in an advisory role to the council, with the council making the final decision. You will have an opportunity to address the commission during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Your testimony is appreciated and encouraged. The commission acts from a written agenda. You will need to fill out a yellow speaker card, which are located in the outside corridor, and give it to the city staff if you wish to speak on an item. Copies of the agenda and speaker cards are located on that table in the corridor. At this time, if everybody could silence their cell phones, that would be muchly appreciated. There are 7 members appointed to the Planning Commission, and at this time I will ask the commissioners to introduce themselves and state the district they are representing, starting from my far right.
John Crow, Mayor at Large. Tom Cole, Barrel District.
Ed Nyberg, Choya District.
Warren Wilfong, Ocotillo District.
Martin Nowakowski, Yucca District.
And I'm Vern Crow representing Cactus, and we are still vacant 1 commissioner for the Saguaro District. The Planning Commission receives staff's assistance and guidance from the Planning Division and the City Attorney's Office. Mr. Rickert, would you please introduce the city staff who are going to be presenting this evening?
Yes, Jim Gruber to the far right, or my far right, and Jamshid Mehta. And then could each one of you stand up? Edward Virgil, Josie Castaneda, and everybody is I forgot. I'm not familiar with everybody's name, even in the short time I'm here. But Alex, will you stand up, please? And then Diana Figueroa, your Planning Commission Secretary.
Our Savior.
And I'm David Verkert. Thank you. I apologize for not having everybody's name memorized.
No worries. You're the new guy. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Because these items were not on tonight's agenda, the Commission cannot take action on any of this discussion this evening. However, items may be added to a future agenda. And I do have 3 speaker cards on non-agenda items. And the first one is Lorraine Zomak. Lorraine, are you here? Oh, here she comes. Hi, Lorraine. If you could just come up to the podium there and state your name and address, please.
Got a little workout running up to here. My name is Lorraine Zomak. I reside at 7302 North 58th Drive, in the beautiful Ocotillo District. Good evening, Chairman Crow and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again regarding the Catlin Court planned area development. This week, you received from us a 38-page Catlin Court pad property inventory report. This document is fully sourced and details critical information, including current occupants, business type, tax rate, classification, and square footage. In addition, there are important notes with each property. This document is a comprehensive and accurate depiction of the properties in and surrounding the Catlin Court Retail and Dining District. We appreciate your time reviewing the document as it continues to show the importance of keeping the Catlin Court area defined in the pad as a retail destination. The importance of the pad is now more critical than ever. The foundation of the area is built on the pad, which has been in existence for nearly 30 years. It has not only stood the test of time, but has proven over and over again to be the catalyst for business sustainability and growth. Just a few days ago, we celebrated National Mom and Pop Business Owners Day. Our economy could not run without small mom and pop businesses. They create economic growth and provide almost 70% of all new jobs in the country. That is why every year on March 29th, we acknowledge the more than 27 million small businesses in the U.S. When you shop and dine in a mom and pop business, you bring a significant impact to the local economy. In fact, dollars spent with local businesses stay in the local community longer than dollars spent in non-local. For every $100 spent at a locally owned business, $43 remains in the economy. In comparison, for every $100 spent at a non-locally owned, only $13 remains. And another important note, many of the businesses in Catlin Court provide ongoing charity support, from providing more than 10,000 bears to the Trauma Teddy program, to sending hundreds of care packages to deployed military, filling shelves in the local food banks, collecting thousands of bottles of water for the Maricopa County Heat Relief Network, and providing carloads of school supplies to our local elementary schools. These businesses cause incredible ripples throughout our community in humanitarian ways. The original authors of the pad knew exactly what they were doing when they developed the pad, which has set the stage over and over again for entrepreneurs to live their American dream. Thank you to each one of you for helping us continue that tradition for the next 30+ years, especially for that young entrepreneur who tonight might be sitting at their kitchen table dreaming of owning their own retail business and could be our next specialty store in Catlin Court. Thank you.
Figures do not include the secondary revenue the city could create or may receive through referral to other businesses, restaurants, recommendations, higher banking fees, phone and internet fees, move to residential. Perhaps instead of approving an addition of more residential property to the pad, maybe the pad should enforce the business wording to provide more retail opportunities. Doing so will do the same three things that our city manager said. It will create more business opportunities for entrepreneurs, so allowing us to recruit other business, has higher sales tax, increase our tax base, and it will add employees to work in those businesses, new job opportunities. And in doing so, in other words, it will fix the place up, to quote our city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the last speaker sounds like Coit Berner. Mr. Berner. There he is. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to discuss
Name and address.
Coit Burner, 7146 North 58 Drive.
Thank you, sir.
I own Bears and More. The Catlin Court pad was created in 1992 to preserve the structures and develop a retail walking district. And actually, on this very day in 1992 is when we first opened our business in Catlin Court. At that time, the area was full of blight, buildings in disrepair. No one wanted to live down here. Businesses started moving in, the pad was created. We started restoring the buildings, fixing them up, making them attractive to customers, which most businesses do. And we have a lot of money and blood, sweat, tears, skin in the game, as the city manager likes to say, in this area and our business properties. You can look at the properties on the north side of Myrtle from 58th Avenue to 58th Drive as an example of some of the residential properties in the Catlin Court area. Not everybody that moves in and wants to live here takes good care of their property. Some do, some don't. There was just a raid there yesterday by the police and code enforcement, and one of the houses was deemed uninhabitable. So that is why the pad should remain as is and enforced as written. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Did you fill out a speaker card? I did. And to give it to staff, please? Name and address, please, sir.
My name is Jim Hummel, and I live at 7150 North 58th Drive, right next to Bears and More, and I'm a private residence. And I would just like to, I agree with what the city came up with their plan as far as the residences and the businesses should be able to cohabitate together and survive together and work together with one another. I would also, my house is worth over $300,000. I don't know where Mr. Zomack got his information from, but my house, and I know the one across the street, is over $300,000 at least, easy. So I'm not sure where he's getting those values from. But I really believe that we could work together. All the houses, well, right now, all the residential houses on our street in the 58th Avenue are in good shape. As a matter of fact, the only one that's not in good shape right now is the Brelby Theater, and it looks very bad. And a lot of the, over the years, the businesses that have been there have not looked that great either. So I don't like those comparisons. But I do believe that we could all work together. We can all live and cohabitate together. And the way the PAD is written, there is no limit on how many residences can be there. It's going to be really hard to enforce the 25% office space. I agree with the city on that. So I support the city's, what they came up with.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move on. We're going to move on to the approval of the minutes, but we need to table it to allow for a correction. So Chair will entertain a motion to table the minutes for March 4th, 2021 Planning Commission regular meeting. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to table the meeting minutes for March 4th to allow for a correction and come back to us at our next regularly planned meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Rickert, is there anything for withdrawals or continuances this evening?
Mr. Chairman, no, sir.
Okay, as there are none, let's move on to the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide interested parties an opportunity to present testimony for the Commission's consideration. We will follow the same procedures for each item. I will call the application number and the name of the applicant. Staff will present their report and answer questions from the Commission. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation and answer questions from the Commission. Other persons who wish to testify will be asked to do so and answer questions from the Commission. The applicant will have an opportunity for closing comments. The staff will be asked for final comments on the application and procedural guidance. I will then close the public hearing and ask for a motion prior to discussion from the Commission. You will need to state your name and address for the record if you wish to speak on an item. Please be brief and to the point and avoid repetition. I reserve the right to limit the length of your testimony. All exhibits shown to the commission become part of the permanent record and must be submitted for the file. If there's any large groups here, they should designate a spokesperson. Applause and other disruptions which delay the hearing will not be tolerated. We have 4 public hearing items this evening. And our first agenda item is GPA 2101. Mr. Rickert?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this application will be presented to you by Edward Virgil. I believe he's ready to go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Crow, and Planning Commissioners. Again, my name is Edward Vigil. I'm a senior planner with the City of Glendale, and today I'm introducing to you minor general plan amendment application 21-01 and rezoning application 21-01 for 99th Avenue and Glendale Avenue. So the first request is for a minor general plan amendment from business park to entertainment mixed use. And the second request is a zone change from agricultural to planned area development. The project size is approximately 33 acres. So before you is a vicinity map of the project site in relation to where City Hall is. So the project site is west of the northwest corner of 99th Avenue and Glendale Avenue. And if you recall, it's just south of the Desert River 2 project that was brought to you a few months ago. The general plan designation, again, is business park. The zoning map shows the property as zoned as agricultural with several pads to the north and to the south. Before you is a current aerial view of the property. It's located just north of Glendale Avenue, west of 99th Avenue. And then before you is a preliminary conceptual site plan of what the project could look like. The number 1 area right in the middle with all those beige buildings is the multifamily. Number 2 would be the assisted living. Number 3 is the office park. And number 4 is the commercial use. So these are conceptual building elevations for the multifamily. Just wanted to show these to you. And for the public involvement, we had notices mailed March 15th to property owners within 300 feet. The applicant mailed those. The proposal was posted on site on March 12th. The hearing and the request was advertised in the Glendale Star on March 11th. And since all of those items that have been done, no comments have been received by anybody at this point. Let's see. The findings are that the planned area development proposal would result in a quality development product which is consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan by ensuring mixed-use projects provide urban clusters with housing, retail, restaurants, and integrated transit facilities in Glendale. It's also consistent with the development objective of the general plan. So staff's recommendation is that we find the request conforms to these standards and recommend approval subject to the following stipulations. The first one is conformance to the 99th Avenue and Glendale Avenue planned area development. The second is that the developer shall grant and record a navigation easement to the City of Glendale, Glendale Municipal Airport for the site per the content and form prescribed by the city attorney. The developer shall create and incorporate a section within the community CCNRs or residential leases or regulations that clearly define the airport nuisances, aircraft noise, and overflight issues. This shall be completed and approved by the City of Glendale prior to the final approval of construction documents and/or issuance of permits. So number 3 is that the developer shall provide documentation to the city prior to the final approval of construction documents and/or issuance of permits that Form 7460-1 has been filed for the development with the Federal Aviation Administration, and the development received a no hazard determination. If temporary equipment used during construction exceeds the height of the permanent structure, a separate Form 7460-1 shall be submitted to the FAA, and a no hazard determination obtained prior to the construction of start date. And 4th, an in lieu payment for the north half of the future median on Glendale Avenue adjacent to the site shall be received prior to permits being issued for the first phase of development. The payment will be based on an engineer's cost estimate to be reviewed and approved by the city. And that concludes my presentation for these 2 applications. I'm available for any questions.
Yes, it looks like there was a 5th stipulation.
Yes, and that is a typo that was caught today, last minute. I'm not sure how that happened, but the 5th stipulation does not apply to this project. And it's only in the packets that went out to the commissioners. It's not in the PowerPoint and our staff reports. I'm not sure how that happened.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Vigil? Commissioner Nowakowski?
Just curious if the city conducted any traffic studies and if the city received any feedback from the airport and what that would be.
So, thank you, Commissioner. Yes, the city is undergoing a traffic study review. The transportation engineer has issued comments regarding improvements to Glendale Avenue and to Myrtle Avenue. Those requirements are going to be that the developer shall provide additional right-of-way along both Glendale and Myrtle Avenue to the full arterial sections that the city of Glendale details provide or recommend. In addition, what was the other question? Oh, the airport. Those stipulations came from Carl Newman, the reviewer with the City of Glendale Airport. So they did review the application actually twice. One was for the pre-application meeting, and then again for these 2 applications.
Right. No concern from the airport on height, density, anything like that?
No, not at this time. But then once the design review comes in, that will be reviewed and routed to the airport again for comment. But as far as I understand, these are the only comments the airport has issued at this time.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cole?
In relation to stipulation number 3, do I understand correctly, the application process will require the applicant to go through a current evaluation of the hazard zone, noise contours to make sure it's okay to build there? Do we have reason to believe from existing or past studies that that's going to be a successful process?
So I don't believe that the multifamily is an issue that is being proposed at that location. It's just they have to provide these additional steps in getting their approvals.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Vigil.
You're welcome.
Okay, would the applicant or applicant's representative please come forward, state your name for the record, and make your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Ed Bull, 1850 North Central. We're here to agree with staff's recommendation. We're, of course, pleased with the recommendation for approval. We agree with the findings. We accept the stipulations 1 through 4. They're all standard stipulations, including stipulation 3 for the FAA form is a very typical stipulation anytime you're anywhere near any airport. We have a PowerPoint and a presentation. If you'd like me to go through it, I'm happy to. But if you're comfortable with the commission's or with the staff's recommendations, so are we. We also are not aware of any neighborhood opposition and know that what we're proposing here is compatible with other somewhat existing, somewhat proposed developments in the area. So if we're good, we're good. If you want a presentation, I'll be happy to get it, but whichever you prefer.
Commissioners,
I'm fine without a PowerPoint.
everybody's good? Thank you, sir.
Why don't I go sit down?
I do have a question for Mr. Bull. I do have a question for Mr. Bull.
Oh, you do, for the applicant? All right, whoops, you didn't get away too quickly.
I should have sat down quicker.
You had your chance.
No, in looking at the plan and commercial retail, you have 2 sites, 7,000 square foot. I was just kind of curious, how many commercial retail stores can fit in a 7,000 square foot? Usually about 1,000 per, or is there any plans at this time for how you're going to divvy that up? Number 4, B and C, and A is 10,000, or is it 14,000 square feet? No, I'm wrong.
On the commercial parcel, there is considerable interest in the commercial parcel. There are no committed tenants yet in the commercial parcel. I would expect that Building A, which is the larger building, will be a multi-tenant building. There's been different, what I'd call tire kickers, who've been thinking about it for some recreational uses and other kinds of things. B and C, I expect will be pad users, be it a coffee shop or a restaurant or other kinds of uses. And we know, of course, that when there are commitments, they have to go through site plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. I do like the medical office, assisted living, adjacent to St. Joe's, and you do have the other healthcare campus right next door, and with your multifamily makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bull.
I'm going to go sit down.
There you go.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, commissioners? I don't have any speaker cards on this item. So I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. And I'll entertain them. We've got to take this in two motion, I understand. Is that correct?
Chair, members of the commission, yes, that's an advisable way to do it.
Okay, the first motion would be to approve General Plan Amendment GPA 21-01.
Chair, so moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve GPA 21-01. And I'll do a roll call vote starting from my far right. Commissioner Crowe.
Yay.
Commissioner Cole.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The second motion I need is approval of rezoning application ZON 21-01, including the 4 stipulations in the staff report.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion and a second to approve ZON 21-01, including the 4 stipulations in the staff report. I'll do a roll call vote starting from my far right. Commissioner Crowe. Commissioner Cole.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
Motion passed. You're very welcome, sir. Okay, the next agenda item on tonight's agenda will be ZON 21-04. Mr. Rickert?
Yes, Mr. Virgil will give this same, or give the presentation on this application. And I think there's some information in it that relates to Luke Air Force Base. And we want to just make sure that you're aware that it's there, that they're interested. But we believe that there's nothing in the information that you will see tonight that requires you to make any stipulations or any information that would move on to the council that they have suggested. It's just areas that they provide their oversight as they work with the city of Glendale to get proper land uses around the Air Force Base. So with that, Mr. Virgil's got a nice presentation to give you.
Welcome again.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. I'm introducing zoning application 21-04 for the Cubes at Glendale. So this request is to rezone approximately 75.6 acres from RU 43 in the county to PAD, Planned Area Development. There is 260 acres of the project that have already been annexed into the city of Glendale. That project is the Reams Ranch project just south of this parcel. So this is planned to be part of that. It's just coming in a little bit later. The whole site will eventually be 335 acres of industrial. The applicant for this application is Mike Withy with Withy Morris. So this is the vicinity map for the Cubes at Glendale in relation to the City of Glendale offices or City Hall. The general plan designation is currently Luke compatible land use area. The zoning map shows the property. It's still Maricopa County, but to the north you have agricultural. To the south you have the Reams Ranch PAD. And then to the west is Luke Air Force Base. And then west of Reams Road is Maricopa County. So this is an aerial map of the property. And then this map is the Luke Air Force Base noise contours. It shows the different noise contours in relation to the subject site. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but the subject site falls within the 70 and the 75 LDN. The land uses that are being proposed in the PAD mirror the land uses in the Reams Ranch PAD and include typical M1, which is light industrial, and C2, general commercial, retail, offices, industrial, and warehouse uses. So the PAD's coverage is maximum 60%. The building height that they are proposing is 100 feet. They asked for increased floor area and additional signage for the project. However, no billboards will be allowed for the project site. And this is a preliminary site plan for this site before you. It shows two industrial buildings. One is at over 634,000 square feet on 42 acres. And then the second one is over 586,000 square feet on over 36 acres. These are possible building elevations of what the building can look like. I know it's small and you probably can't read that, but the height from natural grade to the highest peak shows at 49.8 feet. And for the public involvement, notification letters were mailed to property owners on March 3rd, 2021. The site was posted on March 12th of this year. The request was advertised on March 17th, and hearing notices were mailed on March 12th. And as of today, no comments from anyone have been received. So Luke Air Force Base provided some last-minute comments yesterday, and so we quickly included them in the PowerPoint presentation. These are possible concerns Luke Air Force Base may or may not have with the project. They include issues with bird and wildlife, aircraft strike hazard potential, light interference, physical encroachment on installation boundaries, physical interference with spectrum utilization, Luke's perimeter fencing, flooding, true height of the structure. They're asking that the maximum height be 54 feet tall. And, then radio frequency interference, traffic, and then the location is near explosive ordnance disposal. Physical encroachment, communication cables, and flight patterns are all possible concerns that Luke Air Force Base may or may not have with the project site as it develops. So again, staff is working with Luke Air Force Base and with the applicants and the developer to make sure that as the application or applications move forward, that these concerns will be addressed prior to any approvals being given to the applicant. So the staff's finding is that the proposed rezoning is consistent in substance and location with the development objectives of the general plan, and that the proposal will be compatible with the Reams Ranch planned area development. Staff's recommendation is approval of zoning application 2104, subject to the following 8 conditions. The first one is that the development shall be in conformance with the Cubes at Glendale PAD development narrative dated March 26, 2021. Number 2 is on-site retention will be required for the 100-year, 2-hour storm event for the gross site area, including the adjacent portions of Reams Road and Northern Avenue. Number 3, all power lines on and adjacent to the site under 69 kV shall be placed underground. Number 4, right-of-way dedications of 55 feet is required for both Reams Road and Northern Avenue. Number 5, the FAA obstruction evaluation airport airspace analysis may be required at design review. Number 6, billboards and digital billboards are not going to be allowed. Number 7, design review approval is required for all site development. And number 8, any proposed loading docks and tractor trailer parking must be screened from view with an 8-foot tall decorative block wall along Northern Avenue and Reams Road. And that concludes my presentation for rezoning application 2104, the Cubes at Glendale.
Thank you, Mr. Vigil. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Vigil? Commissioner Nowakowski.
Staff recommendation, number 6. You said billboards and digital billboards are not permitted, but when I read on, it says, except that billboards and digital billboards shall be permitted if ordinances are amended at a future date that would allow them as proposed in the PAD. So are we allowing a loophole? Can you shed some light on what's
Yes.
going on here?
So currently, the sign ordinance does not allow digital billboards at this location. That statement on the condition, number 6, is stating that if that ordinance changes in the future through a text amendment, possibly, and it then allows billboards in that location, that then and only then they would be allowed to apply for a billboard. But previous to any text amendments to the sign code, no billboards are allowed in that location.
Right, so I'm thinking if it's not allowed now, we have Luke Air Force Base there, why would we allow it in the future? That's my thought process.
Will there be a
residential areas in the county which are generally east and south of the base. So this is a whole different provider.
Okay. Commissioner Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The PAD standards table lists the maximum building height at 100 feet. And Luke has weighed in that they don't want to building taller than 54 feet, if I read the presentation right. I understand there's an FAA process to go through, but how does the military interface with the FAA regarding this difference in the PAD and the request for a specific building height less than the PAD? That makes sense.
Well, in the preliminary building elevations, the maximum height is 49 feet, 8 inches under that 54-foot requirement. And if there is any
Billboards and digital billboards, or just digital I didn't catch that.
Billboards and digital billboards as proposed in the PAD are expressly not permitted, period, would be my suggested revision to that recommendation. And then also my second recommendation was adding stipulation number 9 that building height be limited to 54 feet maximum.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify that last stipulation about the height? It should say from finished floor, because there will be drainage considerations and lifting of the building, so you have to have a base by which where that height would be measured. The city engineer then establishes that through the design review process, and building permits are issued against that. So if we can add that clarity onto that stipulation, that would be helpful.
Yes. Commissioners?
Chair? In the letter from Luke Air Force Base, it states that they are currently drafting an official letter that will be routed through our channels and out to city offices. My recommendation is that this item not be placed on a council agenda until all the feedback from Luke Air Force Base has been received. That's my comment.
So you want to table it, is that?
No, I'm saying before it reaches city council agenda, they get all the feedback from Luke Air Force Base. They provided us these bullet points, but they're still looking for their SMEs, their subject matter experts, to draft that letter.
Mr. Rickard, can we do that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me try to understand what the request is, because the parcel to the south has already been approved with similar information, which the applicant, I believe, can verify. The same conditions were in that approval, which is closer to the airport and the runways. So this site, we believe, they sent that as an email to us. They are going to follow up in the mail with a letter, but I believe the letter will say the same thing, generally, as to what you got in the email. And I don't believe that there's going to be anything that would be suggested as stipulations or those types of things. But we will continue through the process of trying to make sure there are no issues before we issue permits on this. My understanding then...
The arterial right-of-way width, that full improvement or development is 130 feet. The applicant is going to have to provide 55 feet dedication of that 130 feet and make those those improvements throughout that 55-foot dedication.
Okay, so is Northern still a single lane both ways? Going east and west. So are you basically saying they're going to try to put like a...
So a right turn deceleration traffic study also. So construction documents will not be allowed to be submitted for review until that traffic study has been approved.
And there's a lot of trucks getting on this road now.
And then the same for Reams, the same information applies for Reams Road.
Commissioners? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vigil.
Thank you.
Would the applicant or applicant's representative please come forward, state your name for the record, and make your presentation.
Chairman. Taller. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for your record, I'm Mike Withy from Withy Morris. I'm representing the property owner applicant, CRG. With me is Mark Sollenberg from CRG. So I think we can answer all of your questions. The first thing I guess I wanted to say is just we're real proud to be here today. It's a very significant overall project that I know has been heavily supported by economic development and the city, and we've been happy to deliver it. It will produce a large number of jobs for the city. I also wanted to say preliminarily, we've worked a long time with staff, and as you know, we're here with their recommendation for approval, and we're fine with that recommendation. I think some of the comments, I do think it's worth me talking a little bit about the property to the south and the history on this rather, because the way we've always looked at this case on just this little 75 acres was there was no reason to reinvent the wheel. The property to the south of us, which you can see is much closer to Luke Air Force Base than the 75 acres that's before you tonight, is called Reams Ranch. That 260 acres was zoned industrial in Maricopa County. It received also a military compatibility permit and had the full support of Luke Air Force Base, and they actually issued written support for the case. And they also issued approval for the military compatibility permit on the 260 acres for 100 feet building height. Now, the other thing you have to do, of course, is you have to go to the FAA, you have to get your Form 7460 approved, and all of that is ultimately after FAA approval. But Luke Air Force Base supported that, and it went all the way through the process. Then, just to make, you also may recall that in September of 2020, this past year, that property, the 260 acres, was annexed into the city of Glendale, and the military compatibility permit and that zoning was adopted into the city of Glendale. So right now, under the 260 acres, there's a building height limit of 100 feet. Written into that. And Luke Air Force Base has not expressed any problems with that. And in fact, we've already filed FAA forms on that 260 acres. When we acquired the property shortly after it was annexed into the city, just so you know on that case, we have already gotten design review plans approved for the 260 acres. We have infrastructure plans that are already on second review. Our traffic report has been approved. There are decel lanes. And so I think a lot of the questions have been answered. And the construction on that will begin very soon. When we were able to acquire this 75 acres to expand, they were very supportive of this use on the 75 acres. And again, they stated, which I think you can go back and look at all the plans approved, this is the exact use they wanted. They didn't want any residential. They didn't want any high use for people to assemble. They didn't necessarily, they kind of okay with commercial, but what they wanted was industrial buildings. So they've been ecstatic that this project has lined up next to them. Ability permit, which is approved on the 260, they issued an approval, but they stated the same kind of comments. Those comments were put into the military
form of a motion when we get to that point. Okay. If what we've heard from the developer is they're planning on doing exactly the same thing they did in the 260-acre parcel, the building is at 54 feet, then there should be no objection to a limit of 54 feet. That's my thinking.
Audience that would like to speak on this case.
Amend that we approve the request, including the stipulations presented by staff, with the amendment to number 6 to simply read billboards and digital billboards as proposed in the pads are expressly not permitted, period, and strike the remaining verbiage.
Next agenda item is case number CUP 20.
Last name properly. So with that, he will give you the presentation on the Quick Trip CUP.
Good evening. Case number 20-12. I am the project planner for this case, Alex Lerma, planning staff. The aerial of the site, just showing the site and the general area. The project's the impact of the use. Before I go ahead, making the following recommendation, staff stipulation number 3, the developer will be required to provide a 55-way road within 250 feet of the intersection. 65 of the right-of-way will be required. And stipulation number 4.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Okay, would the applicant or applicant's representative please come forward, state your name for the record, and make your presentation.
Avenue, Suite 1700. Here on behalf of Quick Trip, excitement and new tenants that want to go into that space. Right now there's a Ralph's Pizza and there's a couple other tenants in there, but it's largely vacant. You saw the aerial photograph. There's not a lot of cars in the parking lot and it's a sea of asphalt. So Quick Trip's really excited about revitalizing this corner. We got ACU going in across the street on the southeast corner. So there's a lot of new activity at this intersection, and it really needs it. As Alex said, we have no known opposition. I only received one call in support. It was from Gary Sherwood, who, as you guys know, is a former city council member and member of this commission. He called me and said he was supportive of what Quick Trip was doing. We are happy with staff's recommendation of approval. We're okay with stipulations 1 through 4 with the modification to the, we'd appreciate your approval here tonight so that Quick Trip can get on with construction. Thank you.
Commissioners. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't have any speaker cards, but is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, the public hearing for case number CUP 20-12 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Cole.
I would move to approve CUP 20-112, per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report as amended.
Which would delete the last sentence of item stipulation 2, correct?
That's affirmative.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve CUP 20-12 with the 4 stipulations minus the last sentence in stipulation number 2. Any further comments from the commissioners? Okay, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Starting from my far right.
Aye.
Commissioner Cole.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number CUP 20-12 has been approved, subject to the stipulations as outlined. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps?
Chair, members of the commission, your action with respect to case number CUP 20-12 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is CUP 21-0.
I'm Froke, representing Ian and Sharon Hugh, the property owners. The general plan designation for this property is downtown mixed use. The zoning map designates as a C2 the view of the current site, showing the current tire and auto shop facing north. To the north is the current tire and auto shop. The proposal is to dedicate 3 of the parking spaces located along 51st Avenue. If I may say, to the use, there is a minimum requirement of 12 parking spaces, and they have a total of 15, which leaves them at 3 extra parking spaces that they want to designate for this use. The public involvement notification letters were sent out to everyone within the notification list that was provided to the applicant on January 12th, 2021. The public hearing notification was sent on March 12th, 2021. It was posted on the Glendale Star on March 11, 2021, and the site was posted on March 17, 2021. No comments were received to staff or the applicant regarding the proposal at the time. I did receive 2 comments. One was from someone from the notification list, just expressing their opinion, saying that they didn't want sales, but they didn't elaborate further. I did receive also a letter from the apartment complex to the north, and they also wanted to be able to apply a design standard that would buffer the use from the apartment complex, but there is an existing vacant C2 property between both properties. The following are the findings. Planning staff finds that the request meets the findings for section 3.904 in the zoning ordinance. The following is the analysis. The proposed used car sales is consistent with the policies of the general plan, which supports commercial uses. The zoning district allows for used auto sales subject to the approval of a conditional use permit. The existing site will not have physical changes, so there will be improvements applied to the landscaping and the existing parking spaces. There is no significant impact to the existing off-site traffic. The on-site traffic is adequately planned to permit safe and efficient circulation. All applicable city departments have reviewed the application and recommend approval of the application. The following is a recommendation of planning staff. The recommendation is the approval of CUP 21-02, subject to the following stipulation. Development shall be in substantial conformance to both the site plan and project narrative dated February 26, 2021. This concludes my presentation. I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, anything for Ms. Castaneda? Looks like we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative please come forward, state your name for the record, and make your presentation? Welcome, Mr. Froke.
Good evening, Chairman Crow and commission members. Jocelyn did a great job. You're stuck with me tonight. My business partner and son, the general public, should the use permit be approved in
On CUP 21-02, do I hear a motion?
21-02 with the following subject to
The
stipulation.
6th at 6 p.m. If there's no further business, I will entertain a. I have a
Support.
motion. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Okay, gentlemen.